Hi everyone, I'm Justin. Welcome to our channel, Justin and Anna Hit the Trail. It's a solo video today, no Anna, just me. And today I'm going to go over 10 tips for beginner backpackers. Now, for those who are new to the channel, just want to give you a little bit of a background so I seem at least a little bit credible to you. Last year, Anna and I thru-hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. Prior to that, in 2023, we both hiked the Wonderland Trail around Mount Rainier in Washington. In 2021, I hiked the John Muir Trail, and I have done tons of other trips in between these big notable ones and for years before. So I have thousands of miles and hundreds of nights under my belt, so I think I know a little bit about backpacking. Little bit. Well, let's get right into it. Tip number 1, don't go too hard, too fast. If you're doing a lot of research online, especially on YouTube, you're bound to come across tons of hikers, especially thru hikers, that are doing huge trips, huge miles, like 20 miles a day, and they're covering hundreds of miles on a trip. That's not what most people do in their backpacking, and that's not how you should start. Start slow, get a feel for this new hobby, and then work up to the bigger miles. If you start backpacking by tackling these huge miles, you're gonna end up sore and tired and uncomfortable and just not having a good time. And the point of backpacking, in my opinion at least, is to enjoy yourself. And this is a bad start when you're just miserable the whole time because you're pushing too hard. Even though I hiked the PCT last year, most of the trips that I go on are not long trails doing huge miles. Most are maybe 10 miles a day with some friends. When I first started, 8 miles was a big day. And I think for most people, just going out a few miles, setting up camp, and enjoying yourself is a perfectly good backpacking trip. It's about spending time outside, enjoying nature, and you don't need to be pushing big miles and crushing it to do that. Tip number 2, you don't need top-end gear. Again, if you do a lot of online research, you're gonna come across some really nice gear lists and some really nice gear reviews. And most of these are for really expensive pieces of gear. So in this video, we are gonna break down all of the gear that we are carrying on the PCT. And if you start off with these big pieces of gear, that's a good way to just think this hobby is too expensive to get into or you can't afford it and you're never gonna do it. And you don't really want to spend that much money on a hobby that you don't even know if you're going to enjoy. The first half of my backpacking career, I spent in a little one-person marmot tent in a kind of generic REI backpack. Each were maybe $200, and I had a blast. I was getting out there, I was enjoying myself, and I feel like it wasn't really weighing me down. I would never tell someone who's just starting backpacking to go spend $700 on a Z-Packs trekking pole tent. Unless you have tons of money, trying to fork over thousands of dollars for a top-end kit is a good way to just end up saying to yourself, well, this is too expensive, I'm not gonna do it. There's a saying that you'll hear all the time in backpacking that is, buy once, cry once. And there's some truth to that, but I wouldn't go off that quote for your first backpacking setup. Buy some entry-level stuff, get into it, make sure you like it, and then when you know it's something you're gonna keep doing, then spend more money on the nice gear. Tip number 3, and on a similar note, don't go as cheap as possible either. If you're buying cheap gear from Amazon or Walmart, that's a good way to end up with gear that's gonna be uncomfortable, not perform, it's gonna be heavy, and you're probably just not gonna like it. Some cheap gear can work for some people. Actually, one of my friends back in Arizona, Javad, who I've hiked with several times, has a cheap Amazon backpack. He does fill it with some nicer gear, but he's still got a cheap pack from Amazon, and he's used that for a few years, and it suits him just fine. That said, cheap gear is cheap for a reason. It's probably not that great. It can work for some people, but I wouldn't go out and just buy the cheapest stuff I can find. Now, like I said in my previous point, don't go drop thousands of dollars on gear before you're ready. But I started with some pretty entry-level stuff, not really cheap stuff, but entry-level stuff, and it became a huge passion of mine, and now I love it. Tip number 4, make sure your backpack fits. If it doesn't fit you right, you're not gonna have a good time. If your backpack is too small, it's not gonna ride on your hips properly. It's gonna tug back or tug down on your shoulders the wrong way. It's not gonna distribute the weight properly. It's gonna pull in the wrong places, and it's just gonna be uncomfortable, especially, I found, if it's too small. There are plenty of guides online that can explain how to measure your torso size. You can go to REI or any gear shop and they'll be able to measure your torso length, and that is the key to your backpack size. It's not your height, it's your torso length. You can be tall and have a medium backpack. You can be short and have a large backpack. It's all about your torso length, so make sure you measure that and get a pack that fits you properly. Tip number 5. Get an inflatable sleeping pad. The first couple of trips I did were on a thin foam pad, and they were the worst nights sleeping I've had while backpacking. Now this one's a little more personal. There are plenty of people that swear by like a Thermarest Z-Lite, and that's what they use always for their sleeping pad. I don't find it that comfortable. To me, a pad like that is a supplemental pad to go underneath your inflatable pad, or use as a sit pad, or just for taking a little nap. In my opinion, inflatable pads are just so much more comfortable, especially if you get a wide one that has a pretty nice R value. My criteria is above 3 and a wide pad. You don't have to go off my criteria, but that would be my recommendation. Tip number 6, make sure your sleeping bag or quilt is warm enough. A cold night's sleep is never any fun. I started by using an old sleeping bag that my dad had lying around our garage. I took that out on the first couple of trips. It was just some really thin Coleman sleeping bag, not meant for the temperatures I was going into, and I was very cold. And I think a lot of people have had similar experiences. They'll just take a generic like Coleman car camping bag, they'll bring it backpacking. 1, that's too bulky, and 2, it's probably not warm enough. When you're searching for your sleeping bag or quilt, I recommend going 10 degrees below the temperatures that you're expecting. So if it's gonna be 40 degrees, you want a 30-degree bag. If it's 20 degrees, you want a 10-degree bag. Shoot for 10 degrees comfort level below expected temperatures. But in general, for a 3-season backpacking, I would say a 20-degree bag or quilt is what you should shoot for. Tip number 7, make sure you have footwear that actually works with your feet. Now, there are a couple of topics within this point that I want to talk about. One is sizing. Make sure your shoes aren't too small. I've definitely bought shoes that were too small in the past. They always end up uncomfortable and with blisters, which blisters are a trip ruiner. If anything, if you can't find the perfect size, I would err going a half size up and just cranking your laces down. A little bit of wiggle room in the toes is better than crunched toes. Second point, and I know this is a popular topic between trail runners and boots, I definitely have to go trail runners. For the first half of my backpacking career, I always wore boots. I had Merrells and Keens and so on and so forth. And when I switched to trail runners, it was like, boom, mind-blowing. I didn't realize I could feel this light and quick on my feet while I'm out backpacking. Some people still swear by boots. Even on the PCT last year, there were still a handful of hikers that were wearing their boots. But I think the general consensus among the hiking community, at least the long distance hiking community, is that trail runners are the way to go. They breathe so much better, they're more flexible, less chance of blisters. In my opinion, it's just the best footwear for backpacking. Now, before we move on, I will say, if you're hiking in the winter or you're doing some real mountaineering, yeah, of course, buy some boots. But for general 3-season backpacking, trail runners. Tip number 8. Download a good navigation app. AllTrails is a popular hiking app, and yeah, it's good for finding trails. You can navigate with it. I think you can even navigate offline if you have a premium version, but you can't create routes, and it just doesn't have nearly as many features as some other apps out there. Some other popular options are Caltopo, Gaia GPS, Onyx Backcountry. Personally, Gaia GPS is the one I use all the time. I think you can get a premium subscription for $5 a month. And with that, you can create maps ahead of time. It'll have all the trails displayed and you can create your route. You can download that and use that offline without cell service, just using the GPS on your phone. And it'll put you on the map and you can track yourself in real time when you're in the middle of nowhere. It's great. So Guide GPS is the one I recommend, but I would get yourself a good navigation app. Tip number 9. It's okay to change your plans. If you're on a hike and the weather looks terrible ahead, turn around. It's fine. If it's the day or a couple days before your backpacking trip and you just see rain in the forecast, don't go. At least I wouldn't go. Bad weather is a good way to be miserable on a backpacking trip, and being miserable on a backpacking trip is a good way to not like backpacking. If you're on a thru hike and you need to push through some bad weather, that's one thing. But if you're just on a casual weekend trip trying to have fun, don't do that to yourself. You're trying to enjoy yourself, not be miserable. Along that same vein, if you're coming across terrain that's a little above you or too technical, don't push through it. Don't put yourself or others into a situation that you're uncomfortable with, and more importantly, don't put yourself into a dangerous situation. So if you have bad weather or if you have terrain you're not comfortable with, change your plans, turn around, rethink it. It's okay. Tip number 10. Increase your activity level before your backpacking trip. Now, this might not apply to everybody. If you already have an active lifestyle, you'll probably be okay. But if you're a little more sedentary, spend a lot of time on the couch, then yes, I would get up, I'd go on some long walks, try to walk up some hills, go on an incline treadmill. I'm not saying you need to train hard like you're gonna go on a thru hike or like you're gonna run a marathon or anything, but at least get your body moving, get your muscles warmed up and activated, and just loosen up and be ready for your backpacking trip. It's easy to end up sore and stiff and crampy if you start with a low base fitness level, and that's an easy way to end up thinking, well, this is too hard for me, I'm not gonna do it anymore. So avoid that before your trip. Get up, start moving around, and just generally increase your activity level. All right, those were 10 tips for beginner backpackers. But wait, I have one more bonus tip. We're going to 11 on this one.
If you can see, the numbers all go to 11.
And this is probably the most important one of them all. So bonus tip number 11, don't overthink it. Just get out there. I gave you 10 tips, and there's so many other videos online with tips and tricks for backpacking, mistakes to avoid. So many gear videos out there. It can be like decision paralysis or analysis paralysis, you know what I mean? It can be overwhelming when you're preparing for your first backpacking trip, or in general when you're first getting into backpacking. So don't overthink it. The most important thing is just to get out and hit the trail. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy hiking, enjoy being in nature, enjoy camping. It's amazing. So the most important thing you can do as a beginner backpacker is just get out there on the trail and start backpacking. Well, that is going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, I'll see you out on the trail. Cheers.